Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter, and this week over at Oriental Stamp Art Design Layout Challengers, they had a really cute sketch, and they had a card with a window in it, and it also had looked like an overlay, and I thought, well, that's a really pretty look, and I wonder if I can cut that window using the circle cutters and oval cutters that I already have. And it's actually very easy to do. I'm going to show you how to do that today. And also, the Tim Holtz distress markers have been all the rage lately, and I'm finding myself really wanting them, but I can't justify buying another set of markers when I already have so many supplies. So I'm going to show you how you can use watercolor crayons to get a very similar effect. So maybe it can tide you over a little bit longer before you splurge on those new markers. So let's get to it. We're going to do a lot of techniques today. Take a look. All right, here is the card base that I already cut. I haven't glued anything together yet, but you can see we've got a window here. It's going to open up and reveal something on the inside of the card. So you want to start off with your card. This is a 5x7 pre-folded card. I haven't folded it yet. You can see the score mark in the middle. And I'm going to use my oval cutter here. This is a Creative Memories oval cutter. And you could also use a colozzle or even a punch, but the important thing to do is to cut your smaller hole first. This is the one that's going to be in behind on the card. So I'm going to use a circle cutter that's going to make a smaller hole, and I'm using the Creative Memories cutting system and the green blade. And I'm just going to cut it like normal. Now, to line up the pattern paper, pop it off, I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to want this side showing, so I'm going to put it upside down. This is double-sided paper, and I'm going to center it in there. And then, because I'm going to want it centered on the front of my card, and then I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to make sure it's not crooked. You could use some repositional tape if you wanted to. And then I'm going to set my cutter on top, and I'm going to make sure I have, just by eyeballing it, that I have a even margin all the way around. Then I'm going to use my red cutter because it'll make a larger circle. And wait a minute, hold on a second. No, sorry. Strike that, reverse it. I'm going to use a pencil to mark my place here. Oh my goodness gracious. I am going to mark, I'm going to draw a circle. Here we go. Whew. There, how much film did I just waste there? And now I'm going to put my cutter down and make sure I have an even margin around. And I'm going to use my red cutter, which will make a larger hole. Oh my goodness, I'm getting myself confused, and probably you as well. And I'm going to cut my circle. And this will give me a nice even frame. So then when I go and adhere it onto my card, I'll have that nice frame. And I'm just using a little double-sided tape. You could use whatever. All right. Now, the cool thing about a card like this is that you're going to be able to see through the front, so you want to have something pretty in there. Okay, that's the right setup for you. And what I've done is I have cut this watercolor paper down, and I'm going to show you the brand that I'm using. It's by Fabriano. It is Studio Watercolor paper. It's 90 pound. It comes in a pad of 75 sheets. It's a great deal, and I think it was about 15 bucks from dickblick.com. If you want to check it out, it's a great deal. I love it for stamping because it's cold pressed. You can probably see the texture, but you can still stamp on it, so it's really nice for that. Now we're going to do a little technique here. We are going to spray it with some water. And then I'm going to use the paint dabbers that I made on my blog the other day, thefrugalcrafter.wordpress.com, and I'm going to put some color on there. Now, to get it going, if you want, you can give it a little squeeze, but I'm just going to scribble on some yellow ochre. If I want more, I can just kind of press down the top and give it a squeeze. And I'm going to use a little sap green. These were just made with student grade watercolor paints and bingo top bottles that I got from Oriental Trading Company. And if that's too bright, it's a little bright, I am going to just give it another little spritz of water, or you know what, maybe I'll use my shimmery stuff. because that will give it a pretty look too. And that will give it a little shine. And if I want to dry it out or make it a little bit lighter, I can always just go ahead and blot it with a paper towel. And it gives it a little texture. But I'm going to set that apart. Let it just set it aside and let it dry a little bit. And I'm going to show you something fun that you can do with your watercolor paper and your watercolor crayons. I have some stamps here by About Art Accents. And simply, all you need to do is grab your watercolor crayon, dip it in a little water. Get a water bucket here. Just dip it in a little water. And you want to scribble onto your stamp. I like to use a couple colors. And if you do get the crayons contaminated, just scribble it on a piece of paper for a minute and it will come undone. I'm moving this out of the way because it's just kind of an eyesore. My nasty old watercolor bucket. And then you can stamp it. And you can stamp it a couple times. And you can even spray it with your water or your glimmer mist or whatever and get a few more stamps out of it. And you can make some really pretty background paper that way. And you could see how you get a little bit more detail as your stamp kind of loses some of the color. And I try to keep it just a few colors when I'm working like this. Just put a few in there. Then maybe do some yellow ones. I've used this longer block and I put my stamps on either side just to make it a little simpler. Look how easy that is. And it's, you know, watercolor crayons. A lot of people have these. You could use watercolor paint and do the same thing. Now if you want, well, the paint is still wet. You could take a brush. This is really bigger than what you'd want to use, but that's what I have right next to me, so I'm just grabbing it. And you could drag some of that color around and paint with it, just like you would with the Tim Holtz markers. But since I don't have them and I'm like totally wanting them, I'm trying to find ways to duplicate the look without shelling out $100 for the set of them, because I know I'm going to want the whole set when I finally break down and get them. I'm kind of hoping my husband will watch this and grab them for my birthday. That'd be totally awesome. Okay, so you can see you get a really pretty look just by dragging some of the watercolor crayon around. I'm using Caran d'Ache watercolor crayons. I got this set of 84 probably about 12 years ago. I love them. They're fabulous. Stampin' Up! Also makes some. I think there's a couple other companies that make them as well. Now, if it's already dry and you decide you wanted some more color, like I have on this little strip here, I can just go in with a wet brush and I can just move around the pigment that's already dried, which is really cool. It's really just a fun, lighthearted look. And I can go in and if I like want to use my acrylic block here, I can just kind of scribble some watercolor crayon out and make myself a little palette and pick it up with my brush. Again, it's really too big of a brush that you'd really want to use for this, but you can just go in and add a little background color in there too if I wanted to. So watercolor crayons are really fun. They're very useful and handy, and you'd use them a lot, I think, if you have some. Maybe dig them out if you bought them a while back but never really knew what to do with them. All right, I'm going to let that dry because that is going to go on my card. I think it's kind of pretty. Let me bring it up a little bit closer. Just very watercolory and loose and carefree. All right, so going back to our paper, it's still damp, by the way, but while it's damp, I want to add some kind of fuzzy foliage, and I've got this lovely bamboo stamp, and it's from About Art Accents. I'm going to show you a couple different things you could do. Now, if I want, I could use my daubers that I made, and I could ink it up just like that, or I can use a watercolor crayon and just kind of add some in there. The nice thing about the crayons is I can actually go in with a couple colors. So I've got all three things happening on here. But look at all that lovely pigment. You can easily get a few stamps out of that. So I'm just going to go ahead and stamp a few times without re-inking. Now I'm going to give it a little spray of water and go in with a little more crayon. This is going to fuzz out a little bit, and that's fine. Maybe a little yellow. I think a little yellow bamboo. I don't know if there's such a thing, but I just think that would look kind of good, so I'm going to put some in there. Hey, it's your art. You know what? You can have purple bamboo if you want to, because it's your art. Don't let the man tell you have to have green bamboo. So there is the bamboo. Now, I want to put some butterflies up here, but it's a little damp, so I don't know if I want to go ahead and do that yet. So while we're waiting for that, let's go ahead and finish the front of our card. Let's set this aside and let that dry a little bit more. I'm going to set it right next to my lamp, my lighting here, because that ought to dry it off pretty quick. I can feel the heat coming off of it right now. So this is the window I showed you at the beginning of the video, the one I'd already cut. And I'm just going to adhere that to the front of my card. These, I got these craft pre-folded cards and envelopes at AC Moore. They were on sale. You got 50 cards and 50 envelopes for $5. I thought that was quite a bargain. And I'm going to add my little watercolor strip here, which is quite lovely. My little butterflies. It's not quite dry. Normally you'd wait for things to dry, but I'm kind of impatient, so I'm going to go ahead and tape that down. This is such a pretty design. It'd make a lovely sympathy card, but I don't want to have it be a sympathy card, because it's just kind of depressing to make sympathy cards. And I think I'm going to put this little scallop strip. Now, this is the reverse side, or the B side of this paper. And if you want to peek under here, see, you can see that. That's that pattern. And usually when you have double-sided patterns, they go really well together, but it was too white. So I went over it with the pink crayon, and then I just brushed clear water over it to blend it, and I really like the way that looks. I just can't decide if I want it to go scallop down or scallop up. Oh, why don't I show you a really quick trick that I love using my score pal and some paper. I didn't plan really anything in this video today. I'm just kind of like flying by the seat of my pants here. Meeting a girlfriend for lunch in a few minutes, so I'm just, making a quick video because I felt like it. I've probably lost half my audience by now, but see this? It's really cool. My hand's probably in the way, but you just take one of these little piercing bugs. This is by EK Success. They make the score pal ones by the same company, so if you have the score pal one, great. If not, you can get one of these. It doesn't matter. But doesn't that look like stitching? Isn't that kind of cool? I normally would go over it with a pen, but my pen's all the way on the other side of the room, and I've made you wait long enough in this video as it is. So we're going to glue this down. It just gives it a little bit of texture. It's fun. Love it. And hopefully my tape is thin enough that I won't be poking out. It might be poking out a little bit. Might have to fold that back. Alright, there we go. Alright, let's stick that down there. I want to have as much of my butterflies showing as I can because I think it's pretty. I'm going to flip it over, trim off the excess. And there's a no fuss card front here. And you could add a little sentiment here and there. Look at that, that's totally crooked. Which part's crooked? I think it's all crooked, actually. This is totally typical for me. I usually have to peel things up a few times and eyeball it until I have it just the way I like it. I'm telling you what, I probably should not upload this video. And yet, I know I'm going to. See, I think it's a confidence booster. You know that, nobody's perfect. Alright, so back to this, which isn't completely dry yet, but we're going to go on with the show anyway. And we are going to grab our little butterflies here. Now, if I wanted to, I could make a little pencil mark to kind of show where this is going to show through. But I just know this general area. I'm not going to bother to make a pencil mark because I don't want to have to go ahead and erase it later. So I'm just going to keep in mind that the window is going to show whatever is on this part of my paper. So that's how I'm doing that. I'm just making a mental note and hoping I don't forget about it. Now sometimes my first stamps with the colored image, the colored rubber, will be a little rough, so I'll just kind of tap it off just to get the kind of blobs away. And then I'm going to go ahead and stamp right in that focal image because I'm feeling brave today. Alright, and then I can spray it, or I can just go ahead and see if I have enough on there to stamp it again. I think I do. Let's give it a good push. And now I can give it a little spritz with either shimmer mist or watercolor. This is actually a little bit of metallic eyeshadow with water in a little spray bottle. Nothing fancy. You can use Pearl-Ex. I've used Pearl-Ex. And there I get a little more of a watery look. I like this really big one. And I'm going to do some pink on the wings. And some yellow on the body. You don't want big blobs of water on your crayons. It's kind of like that. And I want to also make sure that I have a little room to write here, so I don't want it too dark. But we can fade that out a little bit. And how about a few little yellow butterflies? I already got some pink on that, but I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to go right over it with the yellow. That would be my dehumidifier kicking on, if you can hear that in the background. Maybe a pink one too. And this is easy to clean up just with a little bit of water. Maybe one more. I'm getting probably a little carried away here. Oh, it's a little dry. And let's do this one going a little different direction here. Now if I want, with my damp brush, I can go ahead and pull around some of the color. If my brush isn't too wet, then some of the details will remain, which is what I really like about that. You're just kind of lifting up a little bit of the color, but you'll still retain a little bit of detail. You could do this with watercolor paints as well. If you don't have the crayon, just get out your watercolor paints and a brush and paint on the rubber. It'll work just as well. You just have to be careful of the blobs. Now what I might end up doing, because I really like this pattern and I don't want to brush it all away, is I'll probably put a little piece of vellum over there to write on, or I might just go completely crazy and write on this part of my card. That's okay, it's your card. You can do whatever you want to. So you can see, I don't want to close it and smush on my paint, but you can see that that is going to show through quite nicely. Alright, I'm going to let this dry, tape it all together, and show you the final card in just a moment. Okay, here we are back with the card. If you look here in the center, what I did, I'm going to put it up close to the camera, I cut a piece of vellum to fit the same size as the stamped and painted card that we did in there, and then I stitched it up. I stitched up the side and bottom, and then I put in some glitter flakes, and I stitched across the top so it wouldn't get out. And if I shake it, hopefully you can see the glitter kind of, it moves around in there. It's pretty. It offers a little bit of sparkle. I don't know if that's going to show up on the video or not, but it looks really pretty. And the reason I did that was because the stamping was just too dark, and if I wanted to write anything on there or stamp a sentiment, it wouldn't show up. It was just too dark. So so that's that. I like the way that looks. If I want, I could always write over here if I didn't want to cover this up. But I think that it'd be really pretty to stamp a sentiment, emboss it with silver. I think that would be really lovely. And on the front here, I'll put that close to the camera, we have our stamped with the watercolor crayons and cut out butterflies. And this was just a little bit of calligraphy, Chinese calligraphy, Japanese calligraphy, I'm sorry, I don't know the difference, that I did with the watercolor crayons as well. And there's the little strip that I prepared, and I did go ahead and use my pen to draw a line there. My pen's over there, so I won't show you that. But anyway, and I also stamped a little calligraphy just right on top of everything, because I like to do that. I like to stamp over my layers right at the last step. I know it's a little scary because you might ruin the whole thing, but it's also kind of fun and freeing too. So there it is, the design layout challenge from Oriental Stamp Art this week. We got a cute window card. Now you know how to cut your windows and have them line up, and it's fun, it's new, try it. I think you'll be glad you did. Thanks for watching. Until next time, happy crafting!